Hello, I'm Robert Yule. This is the fourth in my series on Genesis 1:26, being a good steward of God's world, especially of all that which is alive, all of the ecosystems, because that's what Genesis 1:26 talks about. Today, we're going to talk about, are you a brilliant idiot? We can all become one, and we hopefully try not to have that happen. So I'll explain that term in a little bit. But first, let's do a review of what we covered last week. Last week, we covered only people know things. Companies don't know things. Countries don't know things. You can write them down, and people still won't know things. If they have to the writing, they can read what you wrote and still not know everything you knew and how you did it and all the things that were taken, other people did to make a product. The more complex the technology, the more people are necessary doing their specialty, doing their skill to have a high-tech society. It's not something you get with hundreds or thousands of people. You need millions and billions of people to have a high-tech culture and society. And we need it. The things that God told us to take care of are way more complex than electronics. Ecosystems are phenomenally complex. We have tried to build ecosystems that are sustainable. None of them has succeeded. They have all failed. We have a lot to learn still. We need lots of people being innovative and creative before we truly know how to properly take care of the world that God has given us. Today, I'm going to share an example, and I'm actually going to share a failure, a time when I didn't remember that only people know things. We were working early on in energy improvement projects, and I have an example of one just so you have an idea of what these look like. And I went out to conferences, I interviewed people, I put out requests for proposals, and I selected the smartest group of people I could to put the energy program in place. And they were truly brilliant men. Most of them had PhDs in engineering. And they came up with some very innovative solutions. I'm going to share one. What you're seeing there in the picture is the energy being consumed by running pumps in a factory. Let's say we have a cooling loop to cool the process equipment. And depending on what's going on, the temperature outside, how much heat load is in the building, how much equipment is running, we'll need somewhere between 1 to 2 pumps of flow. That's why the bottom flow there is 2. That's 2 full pumps of flow. And usually it's something less than that. One way of solving that problem is when you don't need a lot of flow, you just run one pump. Or if you need more flow, you run both pumps. That's what's shown in the blue. And you're using a lot of energy when you do that. An alternative is that you run one pump at variable speed so that it's not running as fast when you don't need as much flow. And when it's fully maxed out, you start the second pump and it runs in variable speed. That is what is shown in orange. And as you can see, the energy being consumed is quite a bit less, no matter where you are on that curve. So the third solution is what these guys came in and said, you should run both pumps in variable speed all the time, and you'll save even more energy. That's the line shown in green, and you can see that is significantly less than both the orange and the blue solutions to this problem. It's more difficult to control. Oh, and that's what they were experts in, controlling things. Why is this true? The little formula at the bottom explains it. This is about as much math as you'll get from me. But it says that energy is equal to 1/2 times the mass times the velocity of the flow squared. So that means if you double the speed of the pump, it uses 4 times as much energy. Another way of saying that is if I cut the speed of the pump in half, I only use 1/4 as much energy. And that is why the green line is lower. I'm running the pumps at the same time, but they're running both slower than they would have otherwise. And that square factor is where the savings is. So you can save a lot of energy, more than half typically. Good thing. The problem was these guys wrote proprietary algorithms to do all this for us. And they all retired on me. The company went out of business. And after 10 years, we're still adding and modifying our factory. We needed to adjust the software, and we weren't able to do it anymore. They weren't there to do it for us. Oops. So we had to start over from scratch, brought in new hardware, new engineering team. And this time we made sure it was open source coding so we could see it. Anybody could see how they were doing it and modify it and update it and change it as necessary. Because I had forgotten. Only people know things, and I needed to make sure I had people who knew things, not just today, but in the future as well. So the next paradigm is what I promised I'd tell you about, brilliant idiots. What is a brilliant idiot? When we are outside our area of expertise, we can easily become a brilliant idiot. Wow, you're so smart. You're so good at what you do. What do you think about this? Well, that's not my area of expertise. And if I start talking like I'm just as smart about that as I am what I really do know, I am well on my way to becoming a brilliant idiot. And I ran into these in the sustainability movement. Brilliant, smart people. But when they get outside their area of expertise, they start suggesting and controlling and doing things that actually don't make a lot of sense. And so we need to guard ourselves against becoming brilliant idiots. We don't want to be like them. I mean, the simplest one is you're a brilliant actor or actress. And you may know about politics, but you're not an expert in that like you are in your craft. And so it's easy to make the mistake of thinking that I am so smart at my craft, I'm also must be smart at this. Well, you might be, but you don't have the experience. To be an expert, a rule of thumb is you need to spend 10,000 hours doing something. So if you've been a parent for more than 5 years, you're probably an expert parent, and you could speak with authority about being a parent. So that's what it is to be brilliant. Being an idiot is when I think I also know about something I probably really don't. So how do I protect myself from that? I want to be a constant learner. So one of the things I would do is I would give any vendor 30 minutes to explain a product to me. I knew I didn't know what I didn't know. And so if this person has been innovative and come up with a new product, I am willing to listen and see if it would be useful to myself and my company. You go to conferences, you talk to your peers, you read books and articles. There's lots of ways to be a constant learner. Hire talent. There are lots of brilliant people out there who know things, and they're waiting to be found and put to work. Don't be afraid to go looking for them. And keep testing that. There may be somebody even more brilliant. That was kind of like why I listed the vendors. This third one is maybe not quite as obvious, but it's powerful. Share what you know. Be a sharer of knowledge because other people in your organization will, one, know that you're a resource at that point, and two, they face problems every day that what I've shared with them might help them do a better job as well. Share the knowledge. I'll probably share some examples of that in a future talk. So I'm going to give you one brief example. I hated lighting controls. I had tried them and they're awful. All they did is annoy the employees. They turn the lights off when people aren't moving near the sensor. They really don't save that much. They're expensive to put in. You have to pull wire all over the place. It was just very disruptive, very little benefit. So I had bad experience with my first few attempts at lighting controls. I had a vendor come to me and he wanted to sell me lighting controls. I hated lighting controls. And so I said yes, because I knew what I didn't know. And they came in, and after 30 minutes, I only had one question for him. How do I get a quote? In that 30 minutes, he had answered every question I had and every issue I had with why I hated lighting controls. And so we tried his. They were wonderful. I had a bright young engineer working for me, and I gave her the task to see how much she could save with these lighting controls. It was a stunning 85%. Yes, 85% of the light we were making was not necessary. And so these were wonderful. Each light had its own sensor. It was controllable and programmable remotely. It was wireless, so I didn't have to pull any wire to do all this. It was cheap to put in, And we could dim the lights because most rooms are overlit, so we could dim it down to appropriate lighting. If nobody was there, we dimmed it even further. At night, we would turn it off. If the sun shined in the window, the lights would dim because we were harvesting the daylight. It was wonderful. And the fact that we could control how fast the lights ramped up and down, you'd walk into a room and the lights actually would, as you walked around, would get be brighter where you are. But we did it so slowly, most people, unless they were looking for it, would never see it. So it wasn't annoying people by turning on and off. It was very gentle. And the funniest one was people would come in early in the morning. They loved it because the light would turn on as they walked by and then turn off as they go by. So you'd have like this light following you around the room. And they knew that it was, they're the only one there. So they had this little pool of light following them around as they walked to their desk or wherever they were going. They actually thought that was kind of fun. So don't be a brilliant idiot. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you again next week.